Hey guys, or hey everybody. This is gonna be a review of my Super Duke 1290R, and you know, I'll try to be as in-depth as possible. It's hard to think and ride, but you know. Oh, I totally messed that up. Anyways, let's see. I'm gonna go over the good, the problems, and the bad. So first, a little disclaimer. I love this bike. I think it's great. I'm not, I don't want to, you know, give it back or anything. I don't want to get rid of it. I'd love to have it forever. It does everything I want, and it does it well. That being said, just because you pay a lot of money for something doesn't mean that it's perfect. And I'm a very honest person. Oh man, third gear. Nah, too many cars. So, you know, that being said, I'll be honest, completely honest. And there are things that are wrong with it. I have had slight problems with it. And there's also a lot of good. So let's start with the good. The bike is the bike that you ride. It's the kind of bike that you ride and it just puts a smile on your face. I never want to stop riding it. I often find myself, you know, okay, well, we should go home now. We've been riding for 3 hours. Yeah, but let's take the long way. And then, you know, maybe, you know, I'll be pulling up to my block and I'll be like, yeah, well, you know, I'll probably just catch the next entrance to my block. Let's just keep riding a little bit. And then there's also the overwhelming desire to pull wheelies. Oh my gosh. Every time I'm on this bike, I pull at least one wheelie. And I can't stop. I just try to do it in responsible places, but I'm like, okay, one more wheelie. Okay, one more, no more, maybe just one more. I love it. It makes you laugh like a little kid. It's just amazing. And that's kind of how I felt when I first test rode it. I took it to a canyon, Collier Canyon. I have a video of me taking it through again, and I was amazed at how easy the bike was to ride fast. I was going faster than I ever had been able to go on my S1000. But I love how you can ride the bike slow. I can go 25 miles per hour, and because I'm not crouched over in an aggressive sport riding position, it feels comfortable. I kind of feel like it's a cross between a Harley and a sport bike. About as pure of a cross as you can get, because not only the engine, the same kind of engine, a V-twin, and a big V-twin at that, but it also is quick as a sport bike. And just one other great thing about the bike, it really holds its line. I let a guy that has a Ducati Hypermotard 1100, I let him ride it, and one of the things he said was that I was much more confidence inspiring in turns. He said it felt much more stable, much more solid, and I would agree. I think it has something to do with how they designed it. They dropped the weight really low into the center of the bike. The frame itself only weighs 10 pounds. It's something called a molybdenum steel. And it's a trellis frame, which means basically just a cage. What's going on here? Can't get this started? Okay, well, I ain't stopping. Anyways, so I think it's about somewhere between 410 dry and 450 wet, which, to give a little bit of perspective, a Gixxer 600 is about 400 pounds. Give or take a little bit, maybe 10 pounds, and a Hayabusa is 550. So it's very light for the CCs it is, which is 1300, and it handles like it feels light. Let me tell you, I sat on this and it didn't feel like a 1300. It felt more like a 600. It just you tip it in really easy. It holds its line, so not only can you pretty much pick any line and go with it, but you can drag knee really easy. It's easy to take this to deep lean angles, deeper than you think. However, it does kind of scare you because it's pretty tall and you feel like you're leaning a lot more than you are. But that just might be me because I'm not used to upright positions at all. It has plenty of power everywhere. I mean, so much torque, so much horsepower. 180 horsepower, somewhere around 100 newton meters of torque. It just, I can take off from a stop in third gear without having to try very hard. I can pretty much wind through any of the gears that I want and use anything that I want, but, you know. So, yeah, I mean, and the power comes on quick. And it's instantly on top. The power band starts kicking in at 2,000 RPMs and goes all the way till 9,000. But at 9,000, it tapers off into a steady flow. It doesn't rise anymore like an inline 4, but that's what you expect when you want to buy a V-twin. Wheelies are super easy. You know, I'm sure if I was more skilled, I could do it in 4th, but right now it's just 2. Oh my god. Wheelies are really easy, I say, and then I fail at a couple. But you know, if you have the skill to do it, it comes up like a charm. I'm still learning. I started learning on this bike. You know, whatever. ABS is really nice. Works great. The rear wheel skids a lot during hard braking in ABS, but that's just why you don't push the limits. If I didn't have ABS, I'd be locking up the rear wheel a lot. But that's a personal skill problem, not a problem with the bike. Traction control is great. I prefer it over the S1000s, but it's understandable the difference. The S1000RR has traction control where you can't pull a wheelie with it on because it slams it back down. But that's meant to be because of launch control for racing. It's for racing. This is for racing too, but it's also for fun. So this ABS or traction control allows you to have a few different modes. Supermoto mode, which allows you to controllably lock the rear wheel and back it in easy. Standard ABS, which allows you to bring the wheel up, but it will intervene and cut out a wheelie after a few seconds, and you have no choice about it. Or you can turn it off. The gas mileage is good. It gets about 35. I've seen as high as 38 miles per gallon. And yeah, it has I get about 180 miles to a tank, and that can give or take about 40 miles depending on how hard I ride it. If you really full throttle it, it eats through the gas extremely quickly. The vision is great. It feels very open. I prefer it without mirrors because the mirrors kind of block my view a bit. But yeah, you know, whatever. That's what mirrors do. It's great with these big handlebars. Not only is it upright, extremely comfortable, but it's so easy to do low speed maneuvers. I can do things on this that I can't even dream of doing yet at my current skill level on my S1000RR, which has clip-ons. That was a nice one. So yeah, that's most of the good. Let me think. I can't really think of anything else. I didn't plan this out, by the way, so pardon me if I have to take long pauses. But at least you get to see me ride around. Okay, let's talk about the problems I've had. I'm sure there's much more good things about it, but the term more smiles per miles is accurate with this bike. So problems I've had no rear wheel hub. I've had none of the popular problems that you hear about, but I did have it was burning oil severely for a while, maybe the first 6,000 miles. I'd fill it with oil, I'd run it for a week, I'd come back and check it, and the oil would be down to 3/4 of what I put in. Not 3/4, 1/3 of what I put in. So it would go from here to here. And that was kind of bad because I didn't want to run the oil or the engine without the oil, obviously. But what I did is I just topped it off. I just topped it off, and I did that once. It did it again. I topped it off again, and since then it stayed full and it hasn't burned off at all. But that might be the oil filter problem that they describe. I'm not sure. That's the only issue I've had with the bike. Besides that, everything's been perfectly. But I bought it later in the year instead of during the beginning of when it was released. I bought it last October. See, look at this. Look how it just eats these lines. I can barely even focus. Not that it's a good thing, but I mean, it just goes where you want. You point, and it goes. Making mid-corner adjustments is like nothing. All right, let's talk about the bad. You don't buy a $20,000 bike and expect to not have to spend a lot of money on maintaining it. But with that being said, second service is $750 for a valve check if you take it to the dealer. And it's going to be really hard to work on this yourself without buying some specialized tools. The worst part, and the thing that pisses me off the most, the rear wheel can't be taken off by anything but a 60mm socket to get the axle nut off. Are you fucking kidding me? Who has one of those? I took it to 5 different shops. After a year it had been released, none of them had the nut for that, the socket. I had to take it to the dealer for rear wheel tire chains because I sure as hell don't, and I didn't want to wait when my cords were showing through the tire. So, you know, it's $60 for the socket, and not only that, it takes 200 Newton meters of torque to torque the axle to spec. So not only do you have to get the 60mm nut, you have to get, well, first the torque wrench capable of that, which is not that bad, but then you also have to get a socket made of higher quality steel, like titanium or something, because an aluminum one or something soft will fucking strip when you're trying to torque it down. Can you believe that? So it's just a huge hassle, and it's a kind of a hassle to work on. They made a lot of things really weird because I guess they want this bike to be special, maybe making it the flag line bike of the KTM, and you know, their first real release of a bike like this. So that's a major complaint. I mean, who has a 60mm nut? I have to take it to the dealer for rear tire changes until I get the tools myself, and that runs me about $100 a tire change because I can't take the wheel to them. I can't get it off the bike. Worst thing ever. I don't like how the engine feels when you go higher in the gears. It gets really quiet and too smooth where I don't feel like I have control over the engine. I believe that's a personal preference because I only rode inline fours before V-twins, and that's just how a V-twin handles, I believe. It destroys tires. You know, I expected that from buying a Torque Monster, but I put a Q3 on the rear, and with moderate, slightly heavy riding, I was cording or showing threads on the Q3, and this was only on the street, showing threads on the Q3 within 2,000 miles. Usually people on 600 sport bikes, inline fours and stuff, get 3,000 miles out of them. Most tires don't last more than 4,000 miles, so I went from street performance tires to sport touring tires. I used Pilot Road 4s, which is a little bit better. You have to go off of a list of KTM's approved tires, otherwise the traction control gets funky, and I don't think you can reprogram it to not be like that. So that's another thing. You better like running on a 190/55. It goes through the gears extremely quick, so you'll find yourself, like, watch, from 5,000, we're already almost redlining it, right? Like, that was just seconds. If you're really laying down the power, like on a track or something, you're going to be clutch or stop shifting a ton to keep up with bikes with quick shifters and the like. And a huge problem is, this is a huge problem to me, because this is a $20,000 bike. It should let you do whatever you want. But the big problem to me is you can't fit a quick shifter to it without possibly causing a valve to shoot out of the engine or something. There's a lot of information on it, but basically you can wreck your bike if you install a quick shifter. And as of right now, there's no quick shifter option from KTM to fix that. Another bad thing, ABS and mitigated traction control is ridiculously hard to turn off compared to a 5-second press of my buttons that I have on the S1000. It takes about 3 minutes to turn them both off if you want, and at least a minute to turn off one. But you know, that's okay. But what's not okay is that it costs a $200 mod from KTM to plug something into the computer and make it capable of not having to reset the ABS and traction control every time you turn off the bike. If you don't have that dongle, it won't save your settings, and it'll turn off and reset every time you restart the bike. That can be so annoying considering how long it takes. So that's a huge thing. Besides that, I can't really think of much. I believe BMW has a better traction control system than this bike does. I once hit some gravel, light gravel, on these new sport touring tires because I was pushing them too hard. I'd never used sport touring tires, and I've been used to performance tires, so my mistake. But the traction control kicked in and totally failed at saving me, whereas BMW's has never let me down. Yeah, so I rate the BMW's higher than that. Besides that, 6 gears too tall. So a lot of people have switched down gearing from 6 so that you can actually use 6 at reasonable speeds. Otherwise, it doesn't really have a good effect on, it doesn't feel right. It makes the engine lug if you use it anywhere before like 90 to 110 miles an hour. Up until that point, you just stay in 5th. I commonly never go into 6th gear on this bike because it feels like the engine's lugging and I don't want to cause any damage. The foot pegs are extremely slippery. You need adjustable rear sets, which is $600, so I wish they had just made better pegs for it stock. Or you can get customized foot plates and pegs off the KTM forum. There's a guy named Moto Hooligan who fabricates them, and those are about $150. But I feel like I spent 20 grand. I shouldn't have to be spending all this additional money on these additional things. It should be perfect for 20 grand. Honestly, that's top of the line bike quality right there. So I'm super picky about that kind of stuff. But like I said, you know, I love it and I get around it. I make it work because I love the bike that much. I just accept it for what it is, and I chalk it up as character. But KTM, what were you thinking with some of these things? Seriously. I really like the dash and the menu options. You know, you have trip, you have a secondary trip, so you can use one to do long-term, one short-term. You have air temperature, you have the date, you have odometer, you have the battery, you have oil temperature. What I don't like is that there is things on here like a tire pressure monitoring system, and that was on the bike when I bought it, and yet there's no option for reading the PSI on the bike, despite they're saying, you know, what settings do you want, PSI or bar or whatever the other unit of measurement for air pressure is. And I was like, well, how do I do it? And apparently there's no option. But inside the manual, it even lists being able to change the setting for the display of the tire pressure, but it doesn't tell you how to do the tire pressure, how to actually display it and read it on the bike. As you can see, there's no option right there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just blank. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why they put a feature into the bike and tempt me into being able to see my tire pressures when it's literally impossible. There's no option on the bike. Alright, I guess I'll hit mines on this bike. But, like I said, I like it. That's really about it, honestly. And what else don't I? Hanging off feels awkward. That might just be me. First upright bike. But it feels like it's meant for a taller person. My legs can't really lock into the tank. That's why I want adjustable rear sets. Then again, I like to do aggressive riding, but I'd raise it a couple inches so I could push my leg into the groove in the tank a lot better. Instead, it's just down here. And with the slippery foot pegs, it's kind of scary in the wet or when you're doing hard cornering because you feel like you're going to slip off. Oh yeah, another thing, the mirrors were super shitty stock. The reason I got rid of them and went with this one is because they were about this tall and they came out to about here, and it was just the perfect height to tap cars' mirrors lane splitting. And I've heard that complaint from several other people. I used to have to avoid, it used to be an additional thing to think about lane splitting because not only would I have to get through the cars, but I'd have to turn and angle it the correct way while in the middle of lane splitting so that it would avoid cars' mirrors. And eventually they hit cars' mirrors so severely, but didn't cause any damage. You know, I don't like run away or anything, but they hit it so severely that it broke the mirror. There was a bolt inside, and they weren't made to fold in. So when they did fold in from the impact, it fucking snapped the screw inside. And a replacement mirror is like $70. So I was like, hell no, I don't like them that much anyways. They were great for looking, but not great in practicality. So I just switched it out to with this bar end mirror, which I love so much more. And also it opens the bike up much more. I feel like I'm just kind of, I can see so much more, especially compared to a sport bike. Besides that, leaning in is awkward, and well, not awkward, but it's scary because you're so high up, but that's a personal issue. Really choppy throttle at first gear. It's hard, and I have good throttle control. It's not a problem for me using first gear at my S1000. But on this bike, I can't really use first gear in the corners. Like, let's see how the bike pulls, and it's so, let's watch this. It's a first gear corner. You have to have an extremely delicate touch to not get any kind of jumpiness from the bike. Nice booster, bro. But it can be done, but it's so much harder than any other bike I've ever ridden. It's so choppy because of all the torque. Ooh, RC390. A lot of people up here today. I don't know if I've been up here since I low-sided the Duke on this road with this bike, but yeah, that's really it. Can't think of much else. Another good thing, I really like the heated grips from KTM. You just plug and play, and then you have 3 options that you use the menu for, and I really like it. There's a minimum setting, there's a medium setting, and there's a maximum setting, and they all work perfectly for what I believe they're intended to work for. Another awkward thing, of course you're not supposed to hang off sport bike style on an upright, or you know, it's not going to be as meant for it, but it's really awkward with your outside arm on this bike because there's no tank to lay it across. And I need to find a way to work around that, but that's also a personal issue. I got good mileage out of the front tire. I got like 10,000, 15,000 miles out of it. No, not 15. I meant like 12,000 miles now. I got about 12,000 miles out of it before I started getting to the point where, oh my God, is this thing gonna blow out? And then I stopped riding it and changed it immediately. But yeah, that's good. Minimal trunk space. I had to get the rear seat cowl because there's like enough trunk space for a cell phone, and that's about it. Like, it's really bad. But I hear you can, there's some sort of catalytic converter box in the rear that you can get out if you get an aftermarket exhaust. I like how loud it is. It's nice and loud when you're not riding it, but when you're riding it, it's nice and quiet. I really don't want to change the pipe because of that reason, but I'd like to find something close to decibels of this bike if I do. But look at how it's a really smooth power delivery too. Unlike V-twins where a lot of people get too much vibration, this one is very, very smooth, and I've never had a vibration issue, and I have not done anything to change what the vibration would feel like from stock on this bike. And I even put these handguards in, which are lighter than the bar ends were, and the vibration didn't even change. It's such a smooth power delivery, it's a delight. So you can basically cruise on the highway and be, oh man, I can ride this bike for, I think the most I've ridden in a day was like 12 hours, and I could have done more by the end of it. It's very comfortable, very upright position, but sporty. You look like a badass going by. I love seeing people ride my bike because you look much more badass than you think. Yeah, that's about it. Great braking power too. Confidence inspiring bike all around, honestly. You feel like it can do anything. It does do anything. I mean, I could go touring on this bike. I've seen people do sport tours on this bike, and they say they don't have a problem. And honestly, I believe it. Like, it's really good. Your back does get tired after a while if you're going to be doing some hard riding, but like, that's just a motorcycle, man. It's nowhere near the pain that you'll be experiencing off of a sport bike. All right, well, that's it. I can't really think of much else. If I do, perhaps I'll make another video in the future just adding to this one, but I think that covers most of it. It's hard to work on. It's great for what you want to do. KTM fucked up a little things, and they made it too unique for unnecessary reasons. It'll kill your tires, but it'll give you good gas mileage. It's great around town, very relaxing to ride at high speeds and low speeds, and that's really about it. And I have compared the speed to leader bikes, and it'll eat up 600s like they're a joke, and it'll pull hard on 1000s, but it'll lose the top end. I haven't been able to get this bike above 140, I believe. 140 in 6th gear, and it starts to chug, but I was also going uphill. I actually haven't tested it out on a flat straight to see what it can really reach top end, but I imagine it would be something like 150. But this is not a top end bike. It's more of a mid-range pull instantly bike. Like here, you know, torque everywhere, boom. So then you come up to a corner, you don't have to gear shift, trail brake in, boom, and then you just decimate the corner. Torque, pull you. Like, I'm just going way too fast there, easily. And I'm gonna slow it down because there's so much gravel here that it's not worth going fast on this part of the road. So yeah. Oh yeah, one last thing. Am I happy for the price for a $20,000 bike? Am Am I happy that I bought it for what it was worth? No. It should be priced at a $18,000, maybe $16,000 bike. It shouldn't be more expensive than my BMW, which it was, because the difficulties that you face are just not worth the additional price. But I mean, if it's something you want, then go for it. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I don't regret it, but I don't believe they valued it correctly. I would wait till it drops price and then get one, to be honest. The rear wheel problems, the lack of traction control and ABS, tweak ability, yeah, no, they value this bike too high. They oversold it because they hyped it up. They hyped it up, and it's not what they use the videos to portray it as, okay? You can loop this bike at 5th gear using just power wheelie throttle. No, you can't. That's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. You can't loop this bike in 5th gear on a highway just by using the throttle. You can't really get it up with power wheelies past 3rd gear without great technique. And a lot of people can't do it without changing the gearing. But, you know, that depends if that's important to you. But they lied about some stuff when they advertised it and hyped it up. And dealerships will hype it up to your face. And, you know, but how did they know? I mean, I don't know. Whatever. Just keep that in mind. All right, peace.